Welcome back to the NYC Godcast, where we offer wacky wisdom weekly from God's Word. On today's episode, we're rolling the dice on a guy who appeared to have bad luck, but ends up a really big winner. So stay tuned. So with this month being March, obviously we have an onslaught of good luck symbols all around us. No doubt we've had some 4-leaf clovers galore. We've had horseshoes. We've had rabbit's foots, lucky number 7. People are all over the place trying to change their luck, thinking about luck in the month of March. So we've all heard stories about those sports players who refuse to wash their jersey or their socks because it brings them good luck and smells.
Or athlete's foot, one of them.
Yeah, right. And so in hopes of winning, they won't change those things. But like we mentioned before, Christians are way too smart to believe in that, right? 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 We would never carry around a rabbit's foot in hopes of things going well in our life, but instead we might drive around with a Bible on our dashboard.
Yep.
We might wear a crucifix around our neck. We might wear a tie on Sundays or put a couple bucks in the offering plate in hopes that God will smile down on us. What we're really saying is that we hope that our religious symbol, our righteous acts, will bring us luck in life. We hope that by doing what God wants, things will go well. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got other people who work diligently to avoid bad luck. So the kids at LifeWise were doing this a couple weeks ago, but they might, as they're walking, avoid every crack in the sidewalk.
They don't want to break their mama's back.
Right? That would be bad luck. We have people who will not walk under a ladder. We have people who won't open umbrellas indoors, right? And the reason is that they believe certain actions are going to cause, certain activities are going to cause a bad outcome in their life. They're convinced that they can steer fate by what they do or don't do. And again, how often do Christians have this same mentality, right? We read our chapter a day. Why? To keep the devil away. We say our bedtime prayers. Why? So that we can sleep good. We say grace. Why? So we don't choke to death. Like, we all have this mentality, whether we say it or not, that's very similar to luck, but we would never call it luck, right? And so we use our efforts to steer fate in our favor. And so this is my question this morning to the table. Are we spiritual or are we really superstitious? Because it's kind of seeming like in this series, there's a very fine line between the two, and we're maybe on the wrong side of that line. And so what we've been talking about all month is that biblically, the Christian has no need for luck. Right. We don't believe in chance. We have no reason to steer fate in our favor. And the reason is that we serve a God of provision. We serve a God who has sovereignly orchestrated all of eternity down to the molecular level and to the microsecond. Meaning that nothing happens by chance, nothing occurs by luck, nothing takes place outside of his control. So instead of trying to sway God, instead of trying to earn his favor, instead of working to change our chances, the Christian biblically is called to trust God and his provisional hands in all things. So grasp how different of a mindset this is. Do you have something?
I said it sounds familiar. Like I heard this earlier today.
So grasp how this is such a different mindset for most Christians. The world looks at life and the world makes attempts to swerve and sway the outcome. But the Christian recognizes that our only job is to obey God and accept his predestined outcome. That means that when bad happens in our lives, we don't try to dodge it. We don't try to go around it. We don't try to avoid it. We trust God through it. We have faith that God saw the trouble coming, and if he allowed it into our lives, he had a purpose for it to be there. And so, here we go. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That was a good Scooby-Doo impersonation.
You have to do this.
I thought it was Mario.
It
That's
was.
he said
That was a good Scooby-Doo impression. She just looked at me. It's like, I thought it was pretty obvious.
I don't remember
It wasn't
Scooby-Doo being
Scooby-Doo, but or a plumber.
That'd be ridiculous to have a dog as a plumber.
Yes, it would. So,
It's happened.
I'm sure there's an episode. Yeah, I'm sure there's an episode.
Somewhere.
So this is exactly what we find taking place in the all too familiar story of the life of a man named Joseph. So we know the story, but step back and consider just how unlucky this guy's life really appears, right? This guy is hated by all of his brothers. This guy's kidnapped. He has attempted murder on his life. He's thrown into a pit. He's sold into slavery. His favorite coat is ruined.
It's the worst.
It is.
Yeah.
His dad thinks he's dead. He's taken onto foreign soil. He's forced to work for a dictator. He's falsely accused. He's imprisoned. He's passed over for another prisoner's release. And then he's forsaken and forgotten. The end. Now, if we think that a lack of luck determines the events of life, Joseph must have been the most unlucky guy ever. Joseph must have been stepping on every crack while smashing every mirror, while walking under every ladder with an umbrella open and black cats everywhere, right? Joseph must have had the most unlucky life ever to have this series of unfortunate events. And so with that mentality, Joseph was as unlucky as a guy could get. And so if there was anyone who should have believed in bad luck, it should have been Joseph. And yet Scripture never records a single time where Joseph attempted to alter or deter or change his circumstances. He never tried to change his luck. In fact, Genesis 50:20, Joseph is speaking about these series of unfortunate events. He's talking about the bad luck, quote unquote, that happens in his life. And Joseph says this, "But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive." And so looking back at the series of bad circumstances after considering what appeared as bad luck, Joseph confesses that God meant even the bad for good. The reason was that God used the troubles in his life to make triumphs. When left in God's hands, Joseph's pain was used to bring about God's plans. Pain. When left in God's hands, Joseph's pain was meant to make about God's plans. So in other words, God looks at the series of rank sufferings and he makes them into remarkable strengths. Joseph points out what's at the core of the doctrine of faith. As believers, we don't need to control fate. And I think that's what we don't grasp. I think that's kind of the underlying of this month, is that true faith has no need to steer luck.
Yeah.
Right.
True faith has no need to steer fate. True faith has no need to try to make God do this or get God to do that or stop this, right? True faith trusts God, period. Nothing else. And so we don't need to garner good luck. We don't need to stop the bad luck. Instead, through every good thing we encounter in life and with every bad event that takes place, we can trust both in the hands of God to bring about his plans. Yeah. We can have faith not that all things will be good, but that our God will work everything for good. And so what we find in the life of Joseph is that God saw ahead. This really is such a beautiful picture. That's what we've been talking about all month, is provision. Vision, that's seeing ahead, right? It's beforehand seeing. And so while Joseph was still living at home, while he's still the favorite child, he's well-dressed, right? God had provision. God saw then that in a few years, the nation of Israel, they're going to be in danger. So God put his provision to work in the life of Joseph. And so if you know the story, without the pit, without the prison, there would be no palace. God couldn't save the nation of Israel had it not been for these series of unfortunate events that Joseph goes through. In other words, as God is looking at the future, he sees that the sons of Israel are going to face starvation. And so God goes to his drawing board and God concocts a solution using the circumstances of Joseph's life that appeared random and happenstance and insignificant and unfortunate. The things that felt painful and problematic and pointless. And yet God was orchestrating all of that intentionally for good.
You went, yeah.
I know, I did. I was just waiting for you guys. Look. Okay, so
I had to give out my final breath.
I know. I was letting you were rolling there. Okay, so just to clarify here, so like I tend to listen to things sometimes with like a lost person's ear. You know what I mean? Like, how does this sound to a lost person? Okay, so maybe some of you are hearing what Josh is saying is that as life happens, God is like running ahead of us, you know what I mean? Preparing things for things to work out a certain way. Okay? So like as you're going through life, okay, you're here, okay, and God's here. And then beyond God is the unknown. So he's only learning about what's going to happen to you, let's say a month, 2 months, 2 years ahead of when you get to that point in time.
God.
Yeah.
Okay? When in actuality, he knows the entire plan. You know what I mean? He is so far ahead of us. You know, like he sees past when we won't be here anymore. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to make sure because like my lost ear was saying, I found it.
If your ear offended, cut it off.
is hearing like, wait, so God is like just out in front of us, like, oh, look, this needs to be fixed.
The Bible,
before we get there.
I think it's the book of Hebrews that says that God is the author and finisher of our faith.
Yes.
And so before you were even born, before you even thought of, before your great grandparents were ever even thought of.
I didn't know you were saying words there. I was like, I was having a stroke.
Before they were ever even born, God wrote your complete story.
Exactly. Yes.
And so, in saying that though, while that is absolutely true, God also sees the end result and knows what's going to take place A through B, or that's lame, A through H. He knows what needs to take place to get you there.
Right.
And so God is orchestrating all of that. Before you ever born, he orchestrated the pit, the palace, the coat, the whole thing in order to get him to this point to save Israel.
Right. So when you said God saw that the nation of Israel would be in trouble, so he orchestrated Joseph's life. Well, he orchestrated that before Joseph was even born.
It's kind of like, so if you, none of us here are authors, but...
I play one on TV.
One of your author, Kevin, over there. But like a drawing board. Like that's kind of what it's like as a drawing board. Like you have all these scenes, all these chapters, and all these characters, and all of these parts and pieces, and you know like the overall arching story, but you need to know the minor details to make that story come about. Right, that's kind of God. The only difference is God knows all that instantaneously without drawing it or concocting it or doing any of that. But in our human finiteness, we need an understanding of how this works. And so, exactly. It really is. It's a parable. Good word. But no, thank you for correcting that. God
also starts with a P.
Look at you. So grasp this. How different would our lives be if we focused our efforts in trusting God instead of trying to curb luck? If we focused our efforts in faith instead of trying to make things better or less worse, right? What if instead of trying to earn God's favor or trying to make him smile on our lives, what if like Joseph, we trusted God with the outcome regardless of the journey? This is such a, I heard a message on this long ago, and it's always stuck with me, but God is the great converter. Eric had this, I don't know if you even listened to it, it was long years and years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. There's this message about like God is like a machine where you put in this bad stuff and he like converts it and out comes, wow, good stuff. Like that is the God we serve. He takes all the pits and all the prisons and all the kidnapping and the ripping of the coat and the bloody, all the stuff that happens to Joseph, and he puts it inside, and God makes it and converts it.
Somebody's computer.
I play one on TV. God converts it into good. Like that's the story of the Bible. He's the grand redeemer. He's the great converter. And so our God does not need luck. God does not need good things to make good outcomes. God can take bad things. He can take bad circumstances and still make good out of it.
One of the just piggybacking on this, so one of the lessons of LifeWise was I was trying to explain to the students how God uses broken people because there's no other kind of people, and it fulfills his perfect, and to explain this, I was like, so let's say you want to make egg salad. Okay, so you realize you must get the eggs off the refrigerator and boil the eggs to make the egg salad.
Don't miss that step.
Okay, right.
Be a mistake.
So you take out the egg carton and you open it, and every single egg in that carton is broken. Okay, right. We're thinking like, and I gotta go to the store, or we're not having egg salad.
Having scrambled eggs.
Exactly. Yes.
Crunchy scrambled eggs.
Yeah. But God, on the other hand, is like, oh, all my eggs are broken. That's okay. I can still make like he has the divineness to take broken things, being accused, prison, the pit, the torn coat, all these broken things, okay, to fulfill his perfect plan. You know what I'm saying? So with those broken eggs, he makes the best egg salad you ever eaten in your life. You know, so that's
not only can God see ahead, but God has unlimited resources.
Yeah. Right.
And so God can do the impossible. And so our fate is so much in better hands in his hands than in our hands. Like, we're so limited in what we can see and what we know and our resources. And so in our mind, we're like, yeah, I got to steer luck. I got to get his favor. I got to do this. And God's just like, give me the brokenness, give me the bad stuff, and I'll make it into something beautiful.
The funny thing is that it's exhausting.
It really is.
Like, that's really exhausting to think that everything you have to do. You have to do everything. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why would you want to be the one, okay, I have to make sure that I do this and this and this and this. And then, what?
It's just ironic coming out of your mouth. I'm listening.
And then, like, also on top of that, like, not only are you not going to be, and then when bad things happen, then you're like, I must have messed up. Yeah. Even though, like, think about, like, so we go back to Job a lot, but, like, his friends were like, you done messed up. And he's like, I didn't do nothing. And I'm like, well, only the wicked get this. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, we have that same mentality. And then when we live that way, what do other people that are even new to the church and, like, different things, what do they think? They're like, oh, well, I have to do this on my own. Even though we're preaching this is Jesus and this is God. No, they're like, oh, well, they're showing me that it's them. They have to make that work. And that's not how it works.
Yeah. I was really just blown away. Like, we have so overused Joseph, like especially the NYC, but really in all Christianity, like, Joseph is like the epitome go-to. And so, you know, part of me was hesitant. But even as I was like working this lesson podcast, I was really just taken back for a minute at how the Bible does not say anything from Joseph. Like, Joseph was silent through this whole thing. Like, dude, can you imagine if one of us went through these things? Like, the minute they ripped my cover, we're like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is the end.
Post this on Facebook.
Like, yeah, like, prayer chain, set them up. Like, this is the end. And yet, Joseph doesn't say anything. And, like, that was so glaring to me that, like, the reason was he trusted God with the bad. He just had faith that even in these bad circumstances, God's going to work it for good. Like, I don't know. I was very convicted and challenged by that. I think that in our modern American Christianity, like, we just are so accustomed to God is here to fix things. And, like, he does fix things. Don't get me wrong. And he does want us to pray for things. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of times the way he does it is making it worse. Like, a lot of times he doesn't need good things to make good things. He uses bad things to make good things.
But if you take his story and nothing bad never happens to him,
there would be no story.
You know, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to Egypt and tell them about a famine coming. Okay? Like, all of that had to happen as like a testimony. You know what I mean? Like, as a teaching point for us that everything he went through, it was still part of God's sovereign plan. You know what I mean? So I like to look at it as, like, I've torn my coat before, but I've never been thrown in the pit. I've never been sold into slavery. You know, but yet, so how can we possibly not? You know what I'm saying? Like, look what this man went through. You see what I'm saying? And yet
McDonald's messing up your order doesn't seem so bad.
They didn't put my exactly. I was about to, but no, I will follow Joseph and not say a thing about the mistake they made this week on my McDouble.
Not naming any names.
McDonald's gets such a bad rap in this podcast. Like, they are like
we just go there too much.
Well, yes, you do.
We all have too much data.
McDonald's, Walmart, and Aldi's.
Yes.
We should talk about Home Depot about something.
I haven't been to Home Depot in a long time.
Years, since Menards was out of something.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very, very true.
All right. Well, today's considerable quote comes from Spurgeon. He says this: "Blessed is that man who has done with chance, who never speaks of luck, but believes that from the least even to the greatest, all things are ordained of the Lord." Today's Colton Dixon. No, today's featured content is by Colton Dixon. This is an old theme song from the NYC. I think it was 2017. I want to say.
This is a hard one for me.
I know, it's scars for Rachel. Are you complaining about your circumstances?
Fine. God works. Everyone has their burdens to bear.
That's the next time you mess that up. That's what you're gonna say. God works this for good.
16.
Was it 16?
What was
it? May have been 16. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was 16. Do All of It is the song by Colton Dixon. Last week's trivia challenge, the answer was 4.
A4. B4?
Second,
A4.
A4. Second luckiest number is 4. Today's trivia challenge is this. What does the Old Testament word provision actually mean? A, provide. B, bread. C, strength. Or D, water.
Very good. Wow.
Today's birthday roundup.
That's number. She got two of them.
Who?
Amy. She did it twice. She's so nice. You gotta say it twice.
Amy Hensley, Linda Simpson, Noah Gillum, Kinsey Jenkins, Greg Sessler, Arlen Bradford, Hattie Hunt, Emma Hutchinson, Kevin Williams.
It's Emma Hines.
That's true.
It is.
This list is as of last year's camp. So that's Diana Blevins and Linda Bellamy. Happy birthday.
There's a lot of March. Yeah, it's
There's a lot of March. Lucky them.
Especially when you have it twice.
I see what you did there.
It's funny.
So, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share.
No mail.
Tell your friend, no mail. Make sure to register. The spots are going fast.
Yeah.
I'm really.
We're over the.
We're not over 500.
Over 500. Over the half.
We're over half. I'd say we're probably like 65%.
100%.
That would be my guess.
Okay. There's decimals and I don't like it.
65% capacity, maybe. But regardless, the spots are going quickly, so make sure to register and register soon. We will more than likely, this is the first time I haven't even told you guys this. We will more than likely be revealing the theme in the next couple of weeks, months.
Before camp.
Before camp, the theme will be revealed, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's it. So thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, see you.
Bye, guys.
This is the intro. Best friends.
I know, I feel so...
We should get the best friends forever rings. You know what I'm talking about? The SpongeBob and Patrick go around in a circle?
I've never heard the word SpongeBob in my entire life.
That's a lie.
I feel like this was our intro last time we sat here. It sure repeats itself every 3 weeks.